It began with a single gunshot. June 1914, Archduke Franz Ferdinand was assassinated. And with that, the world plunged into fire. Young men from Britain, France, Germany, and far beyond marched proudly into war. They thought it would be quick, glorious. But they were marching not toward victory. They were marching toward mud, blood, and death. By the winter of 1914, the Western Front had frozen into a nightmare. The trenches stretched like scars across Europe, hundreds of miles long. Soldiers spent their days knee-deep in mud, surrounded by rats, lice, disease, and the constant sound of artillery thunder. They slept with gas masks and woke up to screams. Every night, shells lit up the sky like lightning. Only the thunder was made of steel. And yet, in the middle of this horror, something even stranger happened. There was a battalion, the Sandringham Company, a proud unit of British soldiers sent to the Gallipoli front in 1915. They were well-trained, disciplined, and loyal. Their mission was simple: advance on a ridge, hold their position, and wait for backup. But what happened? That day would become one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of the Great War. On the morning of August 12, 1915, a strange yellow mist rolled across the battlefield. At first, the soldiers thought it was smoke from the artillery. But it didn't move like smoke. It moved like it was alive. Thick, heavy, silent. The Sandringham men walked into it and vanished. When the mist cleared, the hill was empty. No gunfire, no bodies, no blood. Over 250 men were simply gone. Rescue teams searched for weeks. No graves, no weapons, not even a uniform button. It was as if the battalion had been erased from history. Rumors spread quickly among the troops. Some said it was poison gas. Others swore they saw glowing shapes moving inside the mist. A few whispered that it wasn't the Germans at all, but something else, something that took them away. Meanwhile, the war raged on. The Battle of the Somme in 1916 became a slaughterhouse. At dawn, thousands of British soldiers climbed out of their trenches believing the German lines were destroyed. They were wrong. Machine guns cut them down within minutes. By the end of that day alone, nearly 57,000 were dead or wounded. The rivers ran red and the air was thick with smoke and screams. But even in this endless hell, a fragile spark of humanity appeared. On Christmas Eve, 1914, across no man's land, soldiers from both sides heard something unexpected. Singing. British troops began singing carols, and the Germans answered back. Guns were lowered, candles lit. Men climbed out of trenches and shook hands with the very enemies they'd been trying to kill. They shared cigarettes, chocolate, and stories of home. And for one night, war stopped. But war always finds its way back. The next morning, the orders came. The truce was over. The killing began again. Many of those same men who had shared a laugh on Christmas were forced to shoot at each other. By 1918, the world was exhausted. 9 million soldiers were dead. 21 million were wounded. And entire towns had been erased. The war that began with glory ended with ghosts. But the mystery of the Sandringham Battalion was never solved. After the war, families waited for sons who would never return. Their names were carved into stone memorials, but their bodies were never found. Years later, farmers in Turkey claimed they sometimes saw figures moving in the fog, wearing old British uniforms, marching silently through the night. Footsteps, whispers, lanterns glowing faintly in the mist, as if the battalion was still marching, still trapped between worlds. Even now, more than a century later, travelers near Gallipoli tell the same story. When the night is quiet and the fog rolls in from the hills, you can hear boots on the dirt, voices calling out. The Ghost Battalion, forever lost in the fog of war.